Hello, Tim from Fair Play Now on the 10th of June 2023. So most viewers will have probably heard this news by now, but apparently Johnson, Prime Minister from 2019 until last year, has now announced his resignation, I think effective immediately, as an MP even. And I believe it's all due to the Partygate scandal, and I'm pleased because it means now there's not going to be any way he can ever sneak back in as PM again. And no doubt he would have liked his legacy to have been a lot better than what it's going to be. You know, one of the greatest PMs ever, the PM who got Brexit done and all of that. Not that he didn't even get that done, but instead he's going to go down as the lockdown Prime Minister, isn't he? The Prime Minister who brought in unnecessary lockdowns, who brought in humiliating mandates, which were again unnecessary. The guy who brought in other mandates which forced thousands of decent, hard-working people out of their jobs in a totally undemocratic way. The guy who brought in the Plan B thing, which again was going to restrict many decent people's lives, had that carried on. Thankfully that was very short-lived, thanks to the likes of you and me pushing back. But yeah, he's not going to have a great legacy at all, is he? He's just going to go down in history as being an utterly scandalous character, which he so richly deserves, and as the Partygate Prime Minister, which clearly shows that he didn't care about the lurgy at all, didn't perceive it as a threat at all. And that's one of the paradoxes of all of this, isn't it? Because if there's one thing that should have woken everybody up to, the nonsense, it's the fact that Johnson was partying while he was telling you to stay locked down in your house. So, that shows that he just didn't perceive it as a threat at all. So, yeah, he's going to be, go down in history as one of the worst PMs ever, and so richly deserved. Anyway, I'm not going to dwell on that anymore. And moving on, there are some messages of hope. I think if we're going to win this thing, it's going to be down to people power. Ordinary people have got way more power than we sometimes think we have. And you may have seen this already. I think Richard Vobes featured it on his show, actually interviewed the two guys concerned. I'll leave a link to that in the description box below so you can actually see it firsthand kind of thing. But the Thetford thing. So Thetford is a place in Norfolk, I think. I hope I've got that right. I'm pretty sure it's Norfolk. And yeah, basically they were talking about bringing in, the councils there, bringing in the 20-minute city thing to restrict people's freedoms. Because in the countryside, it's a fairly rural place, I believe, and in the countryside you get a whole extra 5 minutes over and above the 15-minute cities. Isn't that generous of them, eh? But yeah, there was a lot of pushback, and there was a meeting on the Telegram groups and all over the place. It was featured some time ago, some weeks ago, where some local residents just went into a council meeting and confronted them and made the councillors' jobs that evening very, very awkward indeed. Well, it transpires that one of those guys actually put himself up for election in the recent council elections that we've had about a month ago here in the UK, and he got in. Would you believe it? So he got in, and then of course now he's a councillor, he could then initiate moves to basically get the whole 20-minute thing kicked into touch And again, he and other people he's working with have managed to do that. So it's a really big victory, and it just shows you what can happen if we, the people, put our minds to it and, you know, get ourselves elected into these positions and start making things happen, start making things go in the right direction. So a very, very big victory, but you can see the two guys involved and the guy who got himself elected as a councillor in the link below, so I'll leave that there. So I've got a few other things to talk about. This is going to get a bit jumpy, this video, because I've got to pause and look the things up. So this is just something I saw in Telegram group. It's a true story, and again, it just shows how ordinary people, everybody in the ordinary world are just sort of fine, decent, upstanding people, or the vast majority of them are. And this is a real story for hope. Let's just read it out to you. In times where shameless politicians, Johnson, I was just talking about him, wasn't I? And toxic media pervade our lives with lie after lie. Here, I hope, is a happy tale which demonstrates the best of humanity and concerns the truly wonderful folk of North East England. On Wednesday, the 7th of June, a frail 80-year-old lady tripped and suffered a nasty fall on a Jarrow street side pavement. Her travelling companion, son, immediately called an ambulance. During the 30-minute wait for the paramedics to arrive, one jogger, one dog walker, one cyclist and 4 motorists, all having seen the prone woman and hearing her painful groans, stopped. All came with unconditional offers of help, words of positive reassurance, support, and offered their heartfelt sympathy. In time, the paramedics arrived, stabilised the stricken woman and got her to hospital, where a double fracture of the humerus was quickly diagnosed. Surgery was required during the lady's wait for a bed, and having been out on calls all over Tyneside that day, the original ambulance crew returned to the hospital, sought out, found the patient, and came with words of sympathy, support and encouragement. Since then, the woman has undergone and recovered from major surgery to repair her shattered limb. Obviously, there will be a long recovery period for the arm to heal, but having been the recipient of such wonderful treatment and warmth from professionals and ordinary folk alike, the extremely thankful woman and her son is well on her way to making a full recovery. Anyway, and just for the record, the lady answers to the name of Ruth. She is known to me. She is my mother. I mean, wow, that is such a fantastic story, and it just shows you how, decent people, when we get together, how powerful we are, and it's things like that that makes me positive that we will eventually defeat the powers that shouldn't be. And as demonstrated by the Thetford story, yes, it's already happening. It really is already happening, and the vast majority of people out there are decent, hard-working, loving, kind people, and I think that's one of the reasons why the whole Big V thing never really flew, when they were doing their best, the powers that shouldn't be, the media, the celebs and all of the other sort of rotten people were doing their best to whip up a frenzy of hatred against people who weren't going for that particular thing. But it never really flew, did it? Because I think it's because, okay, some people did go with it, and I know some viewers watching me did suffer a lot of unpleasantness, but it didn't really take off in the way they wanted it to because of the decency of, the innate decency of most people. So I'm just going to finish up with mentioning a couple of upcoming events that I'm going to be going to. And first of all, there's an event in Wimbledon this coming Tuesday. It's a little bit short notice, but you've got a few days, and I'll be going there. I used to go to Wimbledon a lot actually, because I used to support Wimbledon FC back in the Crazy Gang days. John Fashanu, Carlton Fairweather, Vinnie Jones, Laurie Sanchez, and all of those, Dave Besant, all of those guys. And I supported them from about the mid 80s up till the early 90s. And then I got married and had other interests in life after that. But I caught the FA Cup final of 1988 when Wimbledon beat Liverpool. And to see a team, especially if it's a small underdog team, sort of win a major tournament, a major trophy, it's just a highlight of your life, really. It's fantastic. And of course, back in those days, Wimbledon FC were not liked at all by the kind of footballing establishment. They were seen as a small upstart team, and the footballing establishment, sort of football press and all of the rest of it, really couldn't stand seeing them winning sort of game after game against sort of big opponents, and they certainly didn't like that FA Cup victory either. So of course I had to support a team like that, didn't I? Being the sort of basically the rebel I am myself. Anyway, I digress. So the event in question at Wimbledon there is happening this Tuesday, June the 13th, 7:30 till 9:30 p.m. It's at the Wimbledon Library Arts Space, Compton Road, Wimbledon, SW19 7QA. And it's basically going to be a talk on mobile phones and masts, 2 to 5G, and the various health concerns that surround those things. And they've got a couple of experts speaking. One of the guys is all the way from the United States. He's a Professor Kent Chamberlain, who is with the University of New Hampshire, and he's a specialist in computational electromagnetics and expert advisor to the New Hampshire Commission report on 5G. And then the other guy speaking is David Gee, Senior Advisor on Science, Policy and Emerging Issues, European Environment Agency. He was with them in the late 90s and early 2000s. I've been asked to go up there and film the event, so I'll be there. And if you can get along there, I think it's either, I can't remember if it's free entry or just very low cost entry. Let's just check that out. Tickets are free, donation at your discretion on the door. So, you can give a little bit to the cause if you want to. But if you're interested in this topic, Wimbledon, 7:30 this coming Tuesday, June the 13th. So that's that one. So the other thing that Lorraine and I have got booked up now is something called the Jam for Freedom. You can find out more at jamforfreedom.com. I'll leave a link to it in the description box below. But it's happening August the 3rd to the 6th, kind of around the Harlow area of Essex, at a place called Redricks Lakes. And it's a music festival, but there's a lot more going on as well besides. And bearing in mind that I'm age 59, this is literally going to be the first music festival I've ever gone to in my entire life. Only sort of 40 years past the kind of age I should have started going to them, but better late than never, eh? But it promises to be a really great thing. And as the name suggests, Jam for Freedom, it's everything to do with the freedom movement. So you can go and spend a weekend in the company of like-minded people, and there's all sorts of bands and acts on who are fully on board with the freedom cause. You've got bands like Victorious, who is probably getting to the stage where they're one of the best known bands in the freedom movement. But you've also got 5 Times August, you've got comedian Alistair Williams, because there's going to be some comedy and comedians and all of that in the evenings. There's going to be speakers, there's going to be stalls, workshops, holistic health and all of that kind of thing. And it's all going on over 4 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday, 3rd to 6th of August. So it sounds like a really great thing. So we're going to get up there with a tent. We've got a big tent, and another thing that might be an attraction for you, or it might not, is I'm going to get some kind of little sign made up and put it on the tent. It's going to be like the Fair Play Now tent, and if you want to come along at sort of set times for a cup of tea, a biscuit and a chat with me and Lorraine, you can come along and do that as well. So that'll be available part of the time. Other times we'll be wandering around the place ourselves, listening to the music, etc. But we'll be chilling out in the tent for part of the time, and you're welcome to come and visit us if you like. So that'll be another thing going on there now. So it promises to be a fantastic event. And yeah, so it looks like the summer's getting quite busy. There are one or two other things that are in the pipeline which will be equally as exciting, but I'm not at liberty to tell you about those quite yet. We're still putting the final touches and organising the final details to them, but I'll let you know about these other things as and when they become, when I know a bit more, is what I'm trying to say, and I can sort of start talking about it. But anyway, I've been going on quite a while with this one. Gonna leave it. Back soon. Tim from Fair Play Now. Thanks for watching.